Hi, thank you for attending this particular session on code on wages. One of the four different labor codes going to be notified by the government of India. The draft codes and the the code is already notified. The draft rules are to be notified for the employers to follow. That's what I expected anytime between January to April 2022. Few states are still not notified the rules. So the government of India is still waiting to notify the central rules also. Today, we are going to discuss about the briefs and the impact on the establishment, mainly the financial impact. What is the definition? It's going to hit the industry to big extent. That's what. So on behalf of Young Rush, I welcome you all. I'll be showing the PPT. So I'll take off my photo. I'll stop my video, but I will present you with my screen. We are going to discuss. It's only about another 10 to 15 minutes. I'll give you a brief on everything. Okay, a brief on code on wages 2019 impact on employers. This is only a kind of a awareness session. So the disclaimer is we are not the legal persons to give suggestion or opinion. This is only for information and awareness, nothing else. So maybe if at all is going to impact your establishment in a big way, please consult with your corporate legal department. So we will proceed on today's session. What is that we are going to discuss? What is the major definition it has impacted, what introduced in this particular code on wages? Earlier, there is only worker definition was there, employee definition was there in few acts, but in code on wages and other codes also, there are two different distinctive definition is there. One on employee, one on worker. Who is employee, who is worker? So here, I would like to mention very clearly, worker is a subset definition of employee. So all workers are employee. That's what I had given in the last line. All workers are employees, but all employees are not workers. Okay, who is an employee? Any person other than apprentice engaged under Apprentices Act, employed on wages. So any person employed on wages except apprentice by an establishment to do any skilled, unskilled, semi-skilled, all such work. Even manager is called the employee. Here it is managerial capacity, not the nomenclature manager. So for hire and reward, so whoever has been engaged is called employee. So the same thing here. Why I highlighted semi-skilled is as I told you, all workers are employees. Semi-skilled was not carried forward to worker definition. For I have no clue why they have missed out. So a skilled person is an employee as well as a worker. So, but the semi-skilled person is only an employee. He is not a worker or she is not a worker. So how come this has been missed out? I have no clue. Let us wait for the rules to be rolled out. We have some. We may have some clarity. So the subset definition, worker. Who is a worker? A person except apprentice employed in any industry to do any manual, unskilled, skilled, technical, operational, clerical or supervisory work for hire or reward. And working journalists also are called workers, sales promotion employees, but does not include, I have highlighted supervisory work, supervisory capacity. So there is a difference between supervisory work and supervisory capacity. Supervisory work is you are overseeing a person is performing or not. Supervisory capacity is you will be responsible and accountable for each and everything of that particular employees who have been managed by you, like approving leave or any other disciplinary action or a recommendation or reference for rewards and recognition, all such things. Managerial, supervisory capacity or managerial capacity. But supervisory work is you are going to manage only the work, that's all. More than that, you are not going to approve any leave, you are not going to refer or recommend or anything. So the capacity is something different. There's a very specific judgment by the Honorable Apex Court also. What is managerial capacity, what is supervisory capacity, and what is actual regular manager or a supervisor. So you should be very, very careful. We'll go to the next slide, and the impact analysis, wages paid. So the mode, this is already there in the Payment of Wages Act. All wages paid in current currency through check or credit into bank or online mode. So that is the mode of the payment. Period, daily, weekly, fortnightly, and monthly. This also is already there, but the time limit is, there is a small change. Daily, so if a person is working on a daily wages, he or she has to be paid at the end of the day. Weekly means last working day of the week, either Friday or Saturday. Fortnightly, before end of second day of end of the week. So the first week they will be working, no need to pay. Second week they will be working. After that end of the week, next 2 days, within next 2 days, you have to make the payment. Monthly, before expiry of 7th of succeeding month. Currently it is 7th as well as 10th. If an establishment is having head count of more than 1,000 employees, but that has been struck off. So there is a change in payment mode, whether you are going to make a payment to your employees or contractual employees. So when you go to the other labor codes, you are responsible for payment of wages of your contractors' employees also. So if the contractor is not paying or paying after 7th, then you will also be liable, accountable for such delays. So as a principal employer, you should be very careful also. So the time limit, there is one single change is there. Otherwise, other things are all same, has been carried over by Payment of Wages Act. The Code on Wages Act is basically subsuming 4 different acts: Payment of Wages Act, Minimum Wages Act, Equal Remuneration Act, and the Payment of Bonus Act. All these 4 acts are going to be subsumed under Code on Wages 2019. Okay, the major impact which has been created by the codes, labor codes, the definition of wages. This has been same across all 4 different codes. All 4 codes has the same definition. Even the employee worker definition is also same. Here, the wages, there is a difference between the wages which has been explained in the different labor codes, like PF or ESIC, gratuity, and other regulatory acts. The wages are defined in a different way. But here, one single universal definition of wages. What wages means? So wages means all remuneration. So that's all, full stop, nothing more, nothing less. All remuneration. A person is engaged in an organization. There is a contractual agreement between the employee and the employer, offerer and acceptor. The offerer gives job and the acceptor performs duty, and there is a consideration which is called remuneration. So here wages means all remuneration. Again, below that remuneration, there is a 2 buckets. We can say 2 buckets. For example, for discussion purpose, we can take 2 buckets. One is inclusion part, the other one is exclusion part. So in all remuneration, what are all is included? All salary wage components. So here it is all salary wage components expressed in terms of money. So anything is expressed in terms of money, which includes. So here under the inclusion bucket, they have very clearly stated only 3, but they have mentioned it includes basic DA and retaining allowance. So apart from that also, there are few other components which can be included under remuneration. So here they have mentioned 3: basic, DA usually be part of minimum wages if the person is working under scheduled employment. Otherwise, basic definitely will be there because basic only is defined under any if the CTC model or gross fixed gross model, so that it will have impact on gratuity, bonus, PF, and maybe for calculating HRA also basic is mandatory. So every company will definitely have basic. Many companies may or may not have a DA, or they merged the DA with the basic. Retaining allowance, it is something like it is only for the seasonal establishment where a company who is on a seasonal establishment, like we can say plantation, which comes under coffee, tobacco, things like that. These companies, they will retain employees. They will pay some allowance. Seasonal establishment, they work for 3 months or 6 months in a year. After that, there will be a break, and then they will resume the operations again. For those, retaining allowance is paid. This is not retention allowance, which is being paid in big companies like MNCs, ITS company, where it is paid as a retention allowance, which is a variable paid if the person is being retained for a long time. That is different. This is different. So retaining allowance. So only these three are inclusive of remuneration part, the first bucket. And apart from this, there are as many. So this is exhaustive. Second bucket is exclusion. This bucket is very fixed one. I had mentioned somewhere around A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K. So in different colors. I'll first explain what is the compensation structure is all about and why I had mentioned the colors. So exclusion is statutory bonus, which is paid for an eligible employee under payment of bonus act. That is excluded. Value of house accommodation, not HRA, value of house accommodation. HRA is different, value of house accommodation is different. PF, pension contribution by employer. So employer pays maybe PF for PF 13%, for ESIC they'll be paying 3.25%, but here very specifically ESI was missed out, ESI was not mentioned. PF or pension contribution, maybe few companies pay superannuation pension contribution also. That is also excluded. Conveyance allowance. Currently, this was not followed by major employees after there was a amendment in Income Tax Act. Conveyance allowance, if it is paid, it is excluded. Some paid to defray special expenses for people working in a different specific areas like hard working, working on the hard working in the means very specific work not all can do, working in heights, working below the ground level or specific works, they'll be paid extra allowance for such expenses. If it is paid, then that is excluded. HRA excluded. Any money paid towards award or settlement of trade union settlement or any award because of anything agreed between trade union and employer, those things will be excluded. Overtime allowance, OT paid to any employee. OT, now it is, as per the code, it is double the ordinary rate of wages. There is a practice in few states, it is 1.5, some state it is 2, that is double. Some companies are having a practice of paying only on basic and DA or basic, not on gross. Now that the definition, because of this definition, it is going to change. Overtime is to be paid on wages. We'll see what is the wages now. Commission, sales commission or service engineers do some work and they'll be paid commission. That is excluded. Gratuity, retrenchment compensation. These two I had highlighted. These are all one-time payment on separation only. That's why I had highlighted in red color. So gratuity and retrenchment compensation are excluded from the wage definition. That is under all remuneration. These are all excluded. Here I had in purple color or violet color, I had mentioned the 4 different compensation structure: conveyance, HRA, any money paid, overtime allowance. This is part of Equal Remuneration Act, it should be equal if it is paid to men or women or transgender. Okay, so there should not be any discrimination. So all these should be same. There should not be any change. See, statutory bonus also, it is sharing of a profit. It should be same across all, not only male or female or gender. Even if it is going to be paid to a person who is working as an operator or a manager or a senior manager, if they are eligible, then across the board it should be same only. Irrespective, these four components are very specifically mentioned that there should not be any discrimination while paying these components. Okay, so we have seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. The 11 components are very comprehensively mentioned as exclusion. If anything else is paid, maybe many companies are paying other allowance and special allowance. That will go to the inclusion part. That's why that definition is exhaustive. So after 3, you can add other allowance. Other allowance will not be part of exclusion. Special allowance will not be part of exclusion. Everything will be moved to inclusion part. Okay, that this is one particular definition. Still, the definition is not over. The second definition is the most critical part for which only the industry is fighting with the government. This is very comprehensive, more than comprehensive. It is highly complicated for any establishment to follow such a rule. I had mentioned 2 points. Let us not go into the second one, that is very rarely being paid. First point, if payments made under exclusion exceeds 1/2 or such other person, 1/2 is now 50%, or such other person as notified by the appropriate government. So it is such other person industry is expecting the government may relax from 50% to any other person, so that it will be good to the employer. We will discuss how it works out. So any other person which is still not notified, if it is not notified, then it is 1/2, which is 50%. So if payment made under exclusion exceeds 1/2 or such other person of all the remuneration meaning inclusion plus exclusion calculated, the amount shall be deemed as a remuneration and shall accordingly be added in the wage under this clause. Okay. So let us go to the next slide, where I have very clearly, exhaustively explained about what actually is this rule, which is a great impact on the employer, on the finances of the employer. Okay, so I had given you an example over here. So I have taken basic and DA. So I had already told you that there are 2 buckets. One is wage bucket, inclusion part, and the others exclusion, the second bucket. Basic and DA. For this example, I had taken only in a commercial or a factory or other establishment, not the seasonal establishment. That's why retaining allowance I had mentioned 0. Okay, I had taken 4 different, maybe 4 different columns, starting with 15,000 basic, 18,000 basic, 50,000, 50,000 basic, and 30,000, 30,000 basic. So basic, DA, third and fourth, they don't have a DA. So the subtotal of the first bucket wages is 21,000, first one, 25,400, 50,000, and 30,000. So others exclusion, I had taken for the purpose of sample calculation, HRA conveyance, monthly. Many companies are paying, monthly bonus because somebody just like that leave in between. So finding at them and later and then paying the bonus is very difficult. So they pay 7,000 as a minimum wage. Consider 7,000 as a minimum bonus payable. Divided by 12, that comes around 583. That's what they pay usually. Staffing industries mostly follow this practice. So that's why I had captured here. Third one, fourth one, there is no bonus because they are out of bonus, 25,000. They are getting more than 21,000. PF employer contribution, for purpose of calculation, I had taken a number, 13%. 3048, 6,000, 3,600. Sales commission, only for the managerial or the senior persons they're getting. No, the low level people will be operators only. That's how I had mentioned. Over time, everyone is getting, if at all they perform duty. So the subtotal for the second one is, I had mentioned 14,103, 18,631, 49,000, 41,600. So the subtotal for the first bucket is, for the first column 21,000, subtotal for the second one is 14,103. So now the rule applies here. So now the rule is, the exclusion part should not exceed 50%, that is one half of the total remuneration. So the grand total is 21,000 plus 14,103 is 35,103. So 50%, that is one half, is 17,552. So here exclusion part should not exceed 17,552. Here it is not exceeding because second bucket it is 1/4, that the exclusion part is less than the 50%. So let us forget, there is no impact for this particular employee or this particular segment of employee. Second one 18,631, 50% is 22,2016, no impact. Third one, no impact. Fourth one, there is an impact because the exclusion part, the second bucket subtotal is 41,600, whereas 50% of the grand total 30,000 plus 41,600 is 71,600. 50% is 35,800. Okay, here exclusion part is more than total remuneration, 50% of total remuneration. So let us go back to that previous slide so that we will better understand that rule. If payments made under exclusions exceeds one half of all remuneration, so payments made under exclusion is 41,600 more than the one half of total remuneration paid. So 71,600. So 50% is 35,800. So there is a difference. Exclusion is more. If calculated, the amount shall be deemed as remuneration and shall accordingly added in wages under this clause. So what here we have to do? First three column, let us forget. Fourth column, there is a difference of rupees 5,800 that needs to be added back to the wages. Wages means the first bucket. So, for example, if you are considering 30,000 on a fixed gross, 30,000 as a wages, which is basic DA and retaining allowance or whatever. We are considering 30,000 for PF, for ESIC also, because hereafter it is ESIC is on wages, not on the gross. Gratuity, bonus, earned leave encashment, there is no clarity on maternity benefit. Maternity benefit also they had mentioned only wages, not gross wages, as it is paid now currently. So that clarity has to come when the Social Security Code is being notified. So currently you will be considering only on 30,000. But suddenly one particular month, this particular, the fourth column, that employee have more sales commission, 3,000 rupees, and a bigger overtime, 5,000 rupees. So because adding these two on then the fixed gross, the wages becomes enhancing. So on particular month, the impact is on PF, ESIC, and gratuity, bonus, everything. If your company is restricting PF to 15,000 and paying only 1,800 from employee, 1,800 from employer, you may not have any worry. Otherwise, gratuity, definitely there will be an impact. And similar calculation if you make for each and every employee, if there is a difference, exclusion part is more than 50% of 50% is current definition. Government may change that also. If there is a difference, then it will have an impact on definitely on the gratuity, definitely on the bonus, things like that. So this is the biggest problem. Because of this, employer cannot make any extra payment for any employee. So if they pay overtime in some months, there will be an impact on the wages. they pay any incentive or ESOP, employee stock option, or any other payment in any particular month, then they have to have a specific calculation in the payroll to define the wages for that particular month. So every month, if it is not a fixed wages like a government office, that's why this has no impact on the government office or central government establishment. But in private establishment, wages always changes because of various reasons. Then it will have a great impact on your payroll, your finances, most specifically bonus and gratuity. Okay, so that's why the industry is worried, more apprehensive, and they are already represented the government. Actually speaking, the government is not inclining to change the definition at all. Maybe they may change the percentage. Now it is 50%. They may change to suit the needs of the employer. That let us we have to wait, because the rules which were notified with only a draft one, we have to wait for the final one. And how it has impacted, we are going to see here. I'll tell you, bonus definitely yes, gratuity definitely yes, because one particular month his wages are more. In that particular month, if the person is getting separated, then the gratuity calculation, even in the code on social security, gratuity calculation is the same, 15/26 into last drawn basic, nothing but last drawn wages. So the same wage definition is being considered in the code on social security also. So the last drawn wages into number of years of service. So you would have keeping the money or paying a premium to the insurance company based on the fixed monthly basic or fixed monthly wages. Suddenly, if the person retires or unfortunate demise of an employee, and this has being enhanced. For example, now it is 30,000. You will be calculating every month 30,000 only, 4.81% on that 30,000. Suddenly, one particular month it is going to be 35,800 into 4.81%. If this is going to change each and every month, then computation will be very, very difficult. So that has a different impact. And the other biggest impact is currently a person who is earning a wages of 22,000. I'll take a easy example, 22,000. He will be gross wages. I'm talking about gross wages. He will be excluded from the ESIC. So more than 21,000, he will be excluded. Because of the new definition, the wages under ESIC also is going to change. It is not going to be on gross. A person who is getting wages, meaning basic and DA, other allowance, even HRI is excluded, then he will automatically be brought into 18,000 or 17,000. So far he will be not in the ESIC, and he will be included once the draft rules become notified permanently, then he will be brought into ESIC. That is also going to be a big impact functionally, administratively, and financially also. The employer has to make the employer contribution, all such things. Suddenly you would have covered him under the medical insurance because he is out of ESIC. Now he has to be covered under ESIC. Then whether what you have to consider on medical insurance premium being paid over there. So many problems will be there. And if a women employee who's not covered under ESIC, you would have covered under Mediclaim for maternity related. One big advantage, if the person is covered under ESIC, maternity benefit is going to be paid by the ESIC. That is a benefit, but otherwise, it will be administratively, there are so many challenges will be there. So this particular definition, which is universal across all 4 different labor codes, is going to have a big impact on the HR function and payroll and finance functions of any organization. Let us wait and see maybe in the month of January 2022 or April 2022. It has to have a final effect on the industry. So we will see other impacting provisions of the code on wages. All employees are covered underpayment of wages. Currently, it was 24,000 gross wages. So hereafter, whoever is, what is the difference between this kind of a coverage under payment of wages? If the person is covered under payment of wages, if a person is earning a gross less than 24,000, for any dispute arises between employee and employer, he can directly go to the labor court. Otherwise, he have to go to the labor office. Office, and they can claim any dispute. Otherwise, they have to go to the labor court attached. So that will be little administratively, it will be a big cumbersome work for even employee or employee. Hereafter, everyone is covered without any wage limit. So even a person who has a dispute getting a 80,000 rupees salary, he can directly go to the labor office and make a complaint. Wages at right time without any deduction, that is also there. It's ensured in the labor codes. It is for all industries, no more scheduled employment. That is the biggest headache. Scheduled employment fixes different types of wages. Each chemical industry, leather industry, engineering industry, shop and commercial establishment, hospital, all as many industries have a different types of, apart from that, skill type, unskilled, semi-skilled, skilled, and highly skilled. So many, and area, metropolitan, village, and city corporation, zone wise. So many complications were there, being simplified now. No more scheduled employment. And one more advantage for the employer series, if there is no scheduled employment is going to be there, then bonus will be on the wages 7,000. Where there was a recent amendment in the Bonus Act which said that the bonus payable is 7,000 or the minimum wages, whichever is higher. That is that was there. Whether that is going to be retained here or not, but the scheduled employment is not going to be there. Let us see what the actual clarification is being brought by the code on wages, where the payment of bonus is also part of code on wages. So for all employees without wage ceiling, bonus is to be paid on all employees. So that clarity is also not there. So with the code on wages, earlier there is a threshold wage of 21,000 basic. Here there is no clarity. So currently, as it is with the code and the draft rules, bonus is to be paid to all employees. Where worker is a subset of employee, so all persons engaged are covered for bonus. So per hour minimum wage also is going to be notified. Currently it is per day wages and monthly wages. Hereafter per hour wages are also going to be notified, so that hereafter on the payment of overtime, which is double the ordinary rate, so per hour into double. So it is very easy. Calculation is also there. Some employers may not pay; they pay only single even for overtime. Those things cannot continue. Floor wages with respect to geographical area is to be decided only by government. So any wages for cement industry or any wages, scheduled employment cement industry is not going to be there. Any wages for skilled person in particular zone, say for municipal administration, skilled employee or unskilled employee, highly skilled, will be determined only by the central government, not by the state government. For example, a skilled person working in a corporation area, city corporation area, either in Bihar or Bangalore or Chennai or Delhi, he is going to get the same salary. 600 means 600 across India. It is not going to be the state specific. So this is a universalization of minimum wages. No gender discrimination in wages, designation, promotion, training, and which includes transgender also. This is already there in the equal remuneration, brought in the code on wages also. Limitation of appeal. Earlier it was up to 3 years you can go for appeal. Sorry, earlier it was, not earlier. The draft is still not notified. Currently it was 6 months and 12 months for 6 months for minimum wages, 12 months for payment of wages. Revised up to 3 years, you can go for a appeal. If there is any dispute after 6 months, you cannot go After 12 months, you cannot go for payment of wages. Any dispute which is said to be revised up to 3 years, you can go and go for a appeal in the labor office. Payment of wages, we have seen daily wages end of the day, weekly is the last day of the week, fortnightly, second working day of the fortnight, and monthly it is expiry of 7 days, the following month. And the third one, what we are going to see is the biggest problem, another biggest problem for all employers. Full and final settlement, except for death cases, any full and final settlement, any separation like discharge or termination or planned separation, which is called resignation, the employer has to make full and final settlement within 2 working days. 2 working days, it is very difficult. For example, if a person is resigning on 17th, he has given a notice, and 2 months notice ends on 17th. On 19th, he or she has to be paid with full and final settlement. Currently, the practice is they will process after 30 days separately or in the next payroll. So hereafter, it cannot happen. Once the code on wages is going to be notified, then this is going to be a added administrative task, and they have to be very careful in the payroll. Over time, we have seen it is double the ordinary rate of wages. Undisbursed amount on death of an employee. If a sudden demise of an employee is there, if it is not paid to the nominees, then it should be deposited with the authority within 3 months. It is very, very difficult because no person can get no death certificate in 1 week, and then if nominees should be aware of this one, then the money should be disbursed immediately. Where there should be a nomination under Payment of Wages Act. Currently, Payment of Wages Act, there is a nomination. Gratuity, there is a nomination, and ESIC, PF, Factories Act, there all these nominations are there. The nominations are there, they are not called nominees. Then they'll be called as a legal heir. Then they have to get a legal heir certificate or a succession certificate, which definitely take 3 months to 6 months time. By the time, the employer cannot keep that money. They have to go and list down what is the amount, and they have to deposit with the authority, labor authority. So the nominee or legal heir, they have to go and approach the labor authorities only to get that money. This is going to be a difficult one for the nominees to run around to get their money. There is no nomination made by the deceased employee. Payment could not be made to the nominees. It shall be deposited with the authority within 6 months. So there is no nominees, or you could not able to find out who's the legal heir. Nobody is approaching you, and you are keeping that money. You cannot keep that money after 6 months. You have to go and deposit. So currently it is up to 3 years. After that, you have to deposit with the labor under Labor Welfare Fund Act. That act is going to be there. How this is going to differentiate from that act, we have to see, because there is a conflict between that act and this particular provision. And absence, if 10 or more is already there, there in the Payment of Wages, 10 or more employees are acting in concert absent themselves, then you can deduct 8 days of wages. It's kind of a strike. So if persons are going on leave, then you can, for 1 day, you can deduct 8 days of leave. So the big impact on the code on wages, what we are going to conclude is, where an employee is removed or dismissed or retrenched or resigned, any separation, become unemployed due to closure of the establishment, even that, then the wages to him shall be paid in 2 working days. Big problem for this. There are so much of attrition in every establishment. Then even now every company is having a payroll department, separate department. So if the company is very big and they have a good amount of attrition, they should have a separation department, processing separation. That also they need to have. Then they have to reconcile the monies paid as a wages and full and final settlement, and give the details to the finance for reconciliation. That is another big headache, big impact on establishment. Impact due to wage definition, PF, ESIC coverage, we have seen gratuity definitely yes, and a bonus. Bonus also it is set to change. So that also is going to set to impact the employer in a big way. So impact due to wage definition, PF, ESIC coverage, gratuity and bonus we have seen. So that's all on this particular webinar. Thank you so much. You can reach out to the Young Rash for any doubts on code on wages. We have only briefly discussed about small impacting provisions. Other things we have not discussed. For anything and everything, you can reach out to Young Rash. So browse to Young Rash web portal and reach out to us. Thank you. Thanks for watching.